Good day. Welcome to Planning Work with Gil, the project plan. You should have already listened to the planning overview video, and now we're going to talk in detail on how to create a project plan and what a project plan is. A good plan is like a roadmap. It shows the final destination and usually the best way to get there. I love the term usually in this quote. Often, best laid plans, something goes wrong, so you have to change the plan, update the plan. It's a process. What's included in a project plan? Firstly, you have to understand the goals of the project, purpose of the project, identify that. Then you need to understand the timelines, most important thing, and when the final due date is. Often we work backwards to schedule everything that needs to be done so it can happen prior to the due date. Okay, all tasks have to be documented. You have to identify who's responsible for the different tasks, any material requirements, and again, any human resources and all the stakeholders, if anybody has to do anything or approve anything, it all has to be documented. And last but not least, risk assessment. Try to identify what might go wrong or what important tasks need to happen so you can monitor those activities in more detail. What's a project plan look like? This is an example of a Gantt chart, which is a visual representation of a project, the project timelines. Often it shows dependencies, relationships between activities. So, for example, if you're organizing a barbecue at school, you have to make sure you have the burgers before you start barbecuing. You have to make sure you have got your barbecue organized, etc. Okay, so that's a Gantt chart. Project milestones. Often what happens is we group important tasks or key tasks, key deliverables into what we call a milestone. That's what a milestone is. Usually small tasks required to complete. So there's usually lots of small tasks to require a big task. When you complete the larger task, all the small tasks, then you call that you've completed a milestone, something important. Examples might be, a final proposal required, if the actual interview, if you're doing an interview, if you're doing an event and you need a rehearsal, the rehearsal itself could be a milestone. If you're doing a project and it requires research, completing the research might be a milestone. Okay, here's an example of what a project plan would look like. This example is sort of based on, let's say, you could do it in a Word document, a Word table, or you could do a spreadsheet. And basically you have all of your columns. I usually have item numbers, and then the 1.0 would be a major deliverable or a milestone. So to complete the project plan, you've got 5 sub-tasks. Set up your goals, create a things to-do list, draft a plan, write your risk analysis, and then complete your final plan, for example. And you'd put dates, start dates, due dates, who's responsible. You can also have a status. Some people put, 80% complete up here, or if they're having some issue, they identify the issues. That's generally what's included in a project plan, whether it's a Word document or an Excel document. And then, so that would be item 1, item 2, item 3, your final item might be the event, in this case, if you're organizing an event. So that's what a project plan would look like. One of the first steps after you've identified the goal of your project is to create a things to do list. So what you want to do is, in this case, it's an example of an interview. And you try to think of all the things that have to be done prior to, say, writing a report based on an interview. So you have to find figure out who you're going to interview, create a list of questions, schedule the interview, maybe write them a letter, do the interview, thank you letter, write the report, etc. Okay, so in this case I've done it in order, but you might brainstorm all the issues and then later you have to organize everything by some kind of category, group, or milestone. Another example would be a things to do list if you're organizing an event. So you'd have to remember to book the venue, get teachers, if you've got a guest speaker or performer, make sure they know the due date. Materials, identify all the materials that are required. So write those all down. Okay, so that's an example of things to do list for an event. And then once you've got your things to do list, you categorize it, and then you create your project plan. Now, once you've got the plan, the best way of organizing yourself is have a team meeting. Everybody who's involved with the plan, who's responsible for different deliverables, have a regular scheduled team meeting. Okay, usually you would have a chairperson at a project meeting. It probably is the project manager, it could be anybody else. So you have someone who's good at facilitating the meeting. You also usually distribute an agenda in advance, and that's the list of things you want to discuss. Usually you know how long the meeting is, so if it's an hour meeting, you might spend a certain amount of time on different things. Usually the agenda, you have the date, the topic, team meeting, all the team members you write out, and then maybe you introduce each other if it's the first meeting. Then you include all the different topics, and you may include the times. So everything you want to talk about. Sometimes you send an agenda out and you ask people, is there anything you want to add to the agenda? So you'd send a first draft out of the agenda out, and then finalize the agenda, and then pull the agenda out at the meeting. One of the first things that you talk about with a meeting is reviewing the previous meeting minutes, making sure that was accurately recorded. Then when you finish your meeting, you usually make sure you document any important next steps in the next meeting. Make sure that's included, and that would all be included when you write the minutes of the meeting, which we call a MOM, minutes of meeting. So that's very important to make sure you meet your due dates and your deadlines, and if there's a problem, you can discuss it, and you may have to change some dates. Okay, so that's it. By failing to plan, you plan to fail. So make sure you plan, write your project plan. Some of the other topics we'll talk about are goal setting, prioritization, and avoiding procrastination. So enjoy, and everybody will be writing project plans for a current project. So hope you enjoyed. Thank you.